Hey, there you are. I can't believe we almost missed you. Welcome back to this week's episode of Closed by Mo. My name is Mohammed. I'm hopefully your favorite host on YouTube on most things real estate. I'm also a real estate investor and a realtor based out of New York. Now, we all know that buying or selling a house is a super daunting process, especially if you understand that statistically speaking, every single time you buy or sell your primary residence, it's usually the largest transaction you've ever been involved in your life. So I totally understand when feelings or emotions get a little bit high strung, to put it nicely. Now, I've worked with a lot of investors. I've worked with a lot of clients that are, buying or selling their fourth or fifth home. I've also worked with a lot of first time home buyers, and I realized that there's a lot of misunderstanding or confusion for first time home buyers, which I totally understand too. Hey, you guys have never done this before, so I figured I'd make a video to give you an idea of what to expect through the entire process. This isn't a step-by-step guide by any means. This is more so a little bit of expectation setting, as well as some general advice in terms of helping you, set your best foot forward when it comes to the home buying process. So I hope you guys enjoy this video. Without further ado, let's jump into this. Now, the number one bit of expectation setting that I could give to first-time home buyers is things are going to feel scary, awkward, and anxious. That is very normal. It's part of the process. Remember, you've never done this before, and it's very difficult to, I would say, come to terms with the fact that you're purchasing a very large ticket item. So if you've never bought a home before, suddenly making a few $100,000, if not $1 million decision is a little bit of a tough pill to swallow. And as you're swallowing it, things might still seem, a little bit scary and daunting as you go through the entire shopping process, viewing, inspection, contract, all those things. That's part of the process. It's very normal. What I see a lot of first time home buyers making a mistake of is not asking the questions to their agents when they're a little bit confused about something. My rule of thumb is if one person is asking me a question, that means 10 other people have thought about it, but they just haven't decided, they just decided not to ask me for whatever reason. That's why I make videos like this, right? Whenever a client asks me a good question that I don't have the answer to yet, or I need to be able to figure it out, it gives me an idea for a video, and that's why we have these videos. And in the future, whenever someone asks me similar questions, I just point them to my YouTube channel or I just send them these videos. But a good agent, if you've picked the right one, will be able to anticipate what questions and concerns you'll have all throughout the process. I just put this in here so you remember that it's okay to feel like you don't know what you're doing, because you don't. It's your first time doing this. It's okay to feel anxious and kind of scary because it is a daunting process. This leads me to my second point. It's a very good segue, which is your agent can be your strongest asset or your weakest link. Now, I have a whole video right up here in terms of helping you figure out how to spot a good agent to work with, but who you work with absolutely matters when it comes to any real estate transaction, especially your first transaction, because as a first-time home buyer, you don't have a network when it comes to any real estate related items. So you most likely won't have a real estate attorney, a real estate lender maybe, home inspectors, contractors, even movers. These are all people that hover around your agent's network, especially if they're a good agent that's been doing this for a few years. Your agent is going to be the one person that you can always turn to ask for referrals, to ask for contact information, and to point general open-ended questions towards. The second point in terms of why your agent can be your biggest strength or your weakest link, because your agent's communication skills are going to come into play when you go throughout the entire process. And what I've learned is a lot of first-time home buyers, we just need a little bit more extra hand-holding because it's your first time buying a house. There's a lot of things that you're just not going to know, right? And if you're doing the right things right and you're asking your agent a lot of questions, you want someone that's good at communicating complicated topics to you in a very simple way, and who's patient enough to understand that you're going to have two questions for every answer that he or she gives you, right? It's all part of the process. Now, the third point here, and it's probably one of the most important points in terms of what to expect throughout the entire process, is your wants and needs are going to change throughout the entire process. So be open to that. Now, what I mean by that is a big mistake I see a lot of first-time home buyers make is you'll sort of jot down all the things that you absolutely know you want or you need, and then you'll close yourself off to all the different things in the periphery. Now, we know in terms of real estate, it's very difficult to categorize one home over the other, even though they might have the same square footage, same number of bedrooms, bathrooms, they can be wildly different. And I like to advise my clients, especially at the beginning of the search, keep an open mind and look at a lot of different properties, a lot of different neighborhoods, because what you want to be able to do is, by process of elimination, figure out what your dislikes are over what your likes are. It's going to be really hard to figure out what you like, but it'll be very easy to figure out what you don't like. For example, you walk in a house and you realize there's only one bathroom, and in the past maybe you thought one bathroom was going to be okay. And then you realize that, hey, we actually need more than one bathroom, because what if we have guests over and the bathroom's occupied? Now what? So now you immediately know what you like, immediately know what you dislike, and that will help you and your agent narrow your search down. So it's very important to keep an open mind, especially earlier on in the process where things are like very broad. And then as you go throughout the weeks and the months, things will narrow down naturally if your agent is doing the right things right? Another bit of advice that I would give in terms of how your wants and needs are going to change is, figure out as a first-time home buyer what your hard requirements are. Like, what are your quantitative, like strict requirements that you need to absolutely back into? And the biggest and easiest one to figure out is your budget, right? You need to be able to speak with a lender to get a pre-approval to figure out what you actually qualify for, because the qualification amount is going to be the single-handed most important thing that you and your agent will have to back into when it comes to your search criteria, right? There's no point in looking at homes that are $100,000 above your budget and trying to lowball an offer, because we know you're just not going to qualify for something like that. And the listing agent's also going to know that, and your chances of getting that offer accepted are going to be incredibly low. Other things might be like your neighborhood, what areas you want, especially like a school district, for example. Also, like what your timeline is, and if as you go through this process, what you'll be able to figure out is, hey, maybe I'm okay with spending a little bit extra or spending a little bit less, not having or absolutely having that thing that you thought you wanted but you actually needed. So sometimes, for example, I've had a scenario where I had a buyer who was absolutely adamant that she only needed 3 bedrooms, and we saw a lot of homes that had 3 bedrooms, and then she realized, hey, if I had an extra bedroom, it would be really good to, house her, her oldest daughter, who's now married and out of the house. And we figured out through looking at a lot of different homes that she was willing to pay at least another $25,000 to $50,000 for that. So as you keep your criteria a little bit open, you'll be able to figure out what your, I would say, pressure points are in terms of figuring out how much you'd be willing to pay for an extra little amenity that you didn't think you wanted, but now you realize you needed, which is all part of the process when it comes to keeping your criteria open and understanding that your wants and needs are going to change. And then one other last bit of advice before I close off this video, something that is, I would say, I learned very recently from one of my own clients: you can't remodel out of a bad neighborhood. What I mean by that is, if you look at a beautiful house and it's been recently remodeled and you're like, wow, this has all the cutting edge technology that you absolutely need, but it's in a bad neighborhood, you can't remodel out of that bad neighborhood, right? You can't live in a castle surrounded, live in a castle in a swamp. You're not going to definitely enjoy that unless you're okay with that neighborhood criteria, which goes back to figuring out and keeping open what your needs and wants are and how they change as they go throughout the entire process. I hope you enjoyed watching this video and you're able to at least take away a few talking points with either your agent, or if you're an agent, definitely share this with your clients so hopefully they get a better understanding of what to expect as a first-time home buyer. With all that said, guys, thank you so much for tuning in. I really appreciate you watching this week's episode of Closed by Mo. I hope you drop a like or a subscribe, or maybe share this with someone who might need to watch this. Have a good day, guys. Bye-bye.